Hello and welcome back to Sharks Happen. On today's show we are going to go over a couple of surfers. We're going to go over life-saving drill attack. We're also going to finish off the show today with a return to what you've been eating shark. So stick around for that, and at the end of the show I'll have some answers to some comments that I've seen in the show having to do with merchandise and things like that. So stick around, and for those of you wondering about merchandise, stick around even after the shark part of the show, and this is going to be a great episode. I hope you stay with us. Okay, we're going to start out the show. We are going over to Garden City Beach, and that is in South Carolina. And the date on this attack is August 20th of 2015. Peyton, he is 15 years old, and he is out in the water doing some surfing. It's just afternoon. It's about 12:30, just before that. He's out surfing. There's many people in the water surfing with him. And he is in the water at 12:30. Waist deep water, and he's underwater when he suddenly thinks that one of his friends has him by the leg. And he says he opened his eyes and could see the shark, and he thought to himself he needs to get his board and get himself in and get the shark stopping chewing on him. What the shark ended up doing is bit him in the foot first, and he said he didn't feel any pain at first, and these two bites were probably very quick. Bit him in the left foot first, then repurchased and bit him in the left calf. And when he reached down to push the shark away, it bit him in the hand, and then it swam off, and he was able to get in. Somebody had carried him in, I do believe it is, and when they got him onto the beach, they wrapped his wounds in towels to stop the bleeding, and medics got there pretty quick and took him in, and he ends up getting his wounds sutured up with 40 stitches he needed for his 3 bites, and they think this is a 4 to 5 foot long bull shark, little bull shark, going off on this kid, biting him 3 times. The one's defensive for the guy putting his hand down there. He got his defensive wounds from the shark, but the first 2 to the leg are just crazy, that it bit him in the foot and then bit him in the calf like that. Good thing it didn't get him, like it got Erik in the calf and took a piece of it away. It sounds like it got him around the top, and you have enough bone there that a little guy like that I don't think could bite through bone like that. But he had to go in and get this stitched up, and it's a little shark. If we were to write it down, it'd be an attack, not an attempt to predate by a 4 to 5 foot bull shark, but that's too small. We don't take care of those ones. And just an interesting story that it was multiple bites again by a little guy. I think the most that we've had so far from a small shark is 4 bites, and that was a while back. I think that was the first one of a little shark that I finally started covering, just due to the number of bites on the person. So we don't put this in the stats, and we'll move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to North Beach, and that is in South Africa. The date, March 8th of 1950. Brian Van Berg, he is 20 years old, and he is participating in a lifeguard drill. It's about 10 to 7 in the evening, 6:50 at night, when Brian is out at least 60 yards, about 70 yards, 65 meters to 120 meters out from shore. That's where Brian's at, and he's the victim. And instead of these lifeguard drills splashing and acting like they're drowning, all they do is they raise their hands up. And that's a signal to let the belt man know to swim out and rescue him. So you got a belt man that's in the water. It doesn't say how far away. Neville Cook is his name. He is another lifeguard, and he's got the belt on. And when he sees Brian give the signal, he's supposed to swim out to Brian, and then he will raise his arm and they will bring him in. He's out in the water, and he sees that Brian suddenly shouts, and he's thrashing his arms around, what they normally don't do. So he immediately starts swimming over to Brian. He says when he gets near Brian, he could see that Brian was laying on his side, and his head was down into the water, and his nose was even below the surface of the water. His whole body sounds like it was starting to sink, and then he just sunk below the surface. Now, Neville, thinking that the only thing he said that he could think of was a shark. So Neville goes ahead and raises his arm, and he wasn't thinking, because that's the signal to bring him in. Now they can't see where Brian is, and Neville's got his arm up, so they reel Neville in with the rope that's attached to the belt man. By the time they get back out there, they do not locate anything of Brian. They never see Brian again. His death is presumed fatal by taken away by shark. So it seems like he ended up getting attacked by a shark, and the shark took him away, and Neville Cook actually saw the shark kind of take him under, and that's the last they ever saw of him. A terrible attack. We've heard of these. We've gone through 3 or 4 at least already of these lifeguard training sessions where an attack ends up happening, and a lot of other ones where the lifeguards are off duty, like in Norman Gervin's case, where 2 of them, Jack Brinkley and Norman Gervin, ended up being attacked by tiger sharks, 2 separate tiger sharks, they say. But very crazy attack, not the only one we've had. And you know, it's just sad because they already took their precautions of making just an arm and 2 arms being up is making them signals so that you're not out there splashing around in water making yourself bait. So that's the attack on Brian Van Berg, 20 years old, an attack, a fatality, large shark, we just don't know what kind. Okay, now we're going to head over to La Mercy Beach, and that is in South Africa. And the date on this attack is June 4th of 1996. Justin Sanders, he's a national junior surf champ. He is out in the water, doesn't say the time of day, depth of the water, not sure of the depth either, but he's in the water and he's sitting on his board, he's with his friends, and he sees a dark shape just below the surface of the water swimming at him. And he says at first he thought this was a baby whale. He said until it swam directly under his board and he could tell it was a shark. And now it turned around, it swam under his board, it seemed to have passed him a bit, turned around, came back and bumped him off his board. So he bumps off his board by the shark. He climbs back up onto his board, and now the shark circles him, he says 5 or 6 times, and then it swims off. So he's a lucky man. He's sitting there and this thing knocks him off the board and then does the circling. The knocking off the board is not an issue. The circling is, because it's deciding whether to come back in and finish you off or not, or at least to come in and bite you. Knocking you off the board, you know, could be curious, but that circling after you got back on the board, that's not good. It reminds me of Ben Linden, I think. I think the shark was circling a group of people, and Ben Linden was on his board, and he was one of them there, and it was circling them and made a beeline at Ben Linden, and he tried to kick the shark, and it ended up taking his leg off, I do believe. So crazy attack, non-attack attack, bumped off the board and then not really attacked after that. So Justin Sanders, he gets off as well as you could. They said this was a 3 to 4 meter shark. They didn't say what kind. Being 3 to 4 meters, you're talking 10 to 14 feet, 13 feet, and that could be, you know, bull shark, great white shark, either one. I don't know that they have too many tiger sharks over in South Africa in that area, but if they have both bulls and the great white, it could be either or. So we'll put this down as bumped off the board, no injury, and, you know, there's no attack. We've had attacks before where there's no injury. Well, this one, it won't even say that the board was injured because it just knocked him off of it. So Justin Sanders gets out easy, no injury, and we will move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to a spot known as the Cobbles, and that is in Cape Hesephe, and that's in South Africa. The date is April 14th of 1990. Conrad Botha, he is 23 years old, and he is out with 4 other friends. They're doing some surfing, some afternoon surfing, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The 5 of them are all out in the water together, and Conrad Botha and Sean Jordan, they're about 20 yards, 20 meters further out than their other 3 friends. They're further out on the back line, going to get a wave further out than them. So some of them are 30 meters from shore. Conrad and his buddy Sean are 30 yards out, and he ends up starting to paddle his way closer to shore. He wants to get closer in for the wave. And he's paddling, laying on his board with his legs trailing behind him, and he feels a bump to his right leg, he says. He said it felt like a bump. What it was a shark grabbing by the leg. Got him in the leg just below the knee. And his friend that was with him turned to look, and he says he saw the shark. So the shark's dorsal surface was completely out of the water, so the shark is at the surface, and it's got his buddy by the leg, so Sean is watching Conrad being pushed by the leg, and it sounds like Conrad's almost sitting on the shark's nose. As the leg is in the shark's mouth, he is waist high out of the water, being pushed along the water. And they also said that his board must have been on his left, the leash on his left foot, because that one would be down in the water, and his board was standing straight up perpendicular to the shark at a right angle. So that means that the board was tombstoning, so his left foot must have had the leash on it. Board is standing straight up, shark is pushing him through the water, and he is hitting on the shark. And he's hitting the shark, and he finally gouged the shark in the eye with his fingers, and the shark released him and went on its way. He was able to get in. He had 2 bites. The shark bit him twice in the lower right leg. It bit him further down on the leg and then repurchased. And he did say that when it was pushing him along the top of the water, it felt like the shark was trying to get a better grip on him. So they get him in. The worst part of his bite is just below his knee. It sounds like on the back side of the calf, and it's about a 7.5 to 10 centimeter long gash. And you know, he has the teeth marks and the rest of it. They did say that the shark kind of thrashed him around, but gently. It wasn't a heavy thrashing. So the shark is pushing him, pushing him side to side as it's pushing him through the water by his leg waist high out of the water. It must have been a crazy sight to see. I just could not imagine seeing something like that. He ends up with, they said that it did end up chipping his bone in his leg, but they didn't see any fragments when they went ahead and sewed him up. I didn't see anything about arteries. They pretty much put a tourniquet on his leg when they got him into the beach. Put a tourniquet on his leg and put a bandage on the worst part, that probably just below the knee, to keep the bleeding down. And he goes in and he gets fixed up. Researchers said they think there's a 2.3 meter or about a 8-foot great white shark. So a little guy. I get to use my little juvenile shark little clip here. So that's the story of Conrad Botha, an attack, not an attempt to predate. A smaller shark than usual. You usually get them, they're 10-footers or so that are attacking people when they're on boards. But this is a smaller guy that ended up doing it. We've gone over that before with them, that they've done that. But very odd that a little guy goes after a board like that and just keeps on the attack instead of just a bite and release and let him go. The repurchasing and pushing him through the water. Probably a little angry shark. So that's the attack on Conrad Botha. Attack, no attempt to predate, 8-foot great white shark. Okay, now we're going to finish out our unprovoked attacks. We are going to head over to Scotland Cay, which is over in the Bahamas, and the date is July 29th of 2013. Erik Norrie, he is 40 years old, and he is out doing some spearfishing. He's in 5 feet deep water, and they don't say the clarity of the water, but usually in the Bahamas it's pretty clear water. And he is swimming back to his boat after spearing himself, I believe it is a grouper. Delicious fish. So he's taking this grouper back to his boat, and he gets bit in the leg. He says he can feel it, that he's bitten in the leg. Don't even think he actually saw the shark. He said he looked down and just saw blood in the water. So shark came up, bit him in the leg, and swam off. Don't know where the fish was. Could have been that go after the fish and bite the spear fisherman in the leg type thing, accidental bite. And it could have been just any kind of shark. We're talking about in the Bahamas, you're talking your reef sharks and your little dogfish sharks and all kinds of different sharks over there. So hard to tell what kind of shark got a hold of him. They said that, they think it might have been 6 feet. So might not even be big enough for our stats. We're going to put it into the stats as a 6-foot shark. We just don't know what kind of shark. And the reason I bring this guy up, Erik Norrie, as the final attack of the day is because it's not his only incident. This guy not only was bitten by the shark, he's been bitten by a rattlesnake. He's been struck by lightning. Wait. And he's been punched by monkeys twice. So I don't know how many monkeys are punching on this guy. I don't know how you end up being in a shark attack, a rattlesnake. It wasn't just a snake, it was a rattlesnake that bit him, and now a shark bit him in the leg. And the monkey's punching on him. Where are you at that you're getting punched on by monkeys? I guess some people just get out of their basements. Crazy attack. We'll be back with the end of the show with what you've been eating shark, and then I'll have an update on the show, and we'll be done with this episode. Okay, now we're going to finish off the show with what you've been eating shark. We're going to head over to Queensland, Australia. This is in November 23rd of 2019. Andrew Page, he was out doing some spearfishing with buddies, and he disappeared. Nobody saw anything of him for weeks, and it was November 17th, over 3 weeks after he disappeared, that a leg washed ashore. And when they went and examined the leg, it had obviously been surgically repaired because there was a metal tag attached to the bone, and they were able to go ahead and identify the remains of the leg as Andrew. So Andrew Page ends up being eaten by the shark. It's over by Elliott Heads, but it's in Queensland, Australia, and he ends up eating his leg washed ashore. And that would go down as an attack, a predation, a fatality. We don't know what kind of shark, and we know it's a large shark. We don't know which one of the big three it is, and you could even say the big four in that situation. Could very well be, just like it could be a bull shark, it could be a bronze whaler over there. But I would expect that it's one of the bulls, tiger, or great white. So that's it for the show. That's what you've been eating shark. Unfortunately, Andrew Page disappearing when he was spearfishing. He ended up eaten by sharks. And now we'll get into a little bit of an update on the show. I saw that everybody was asking about the merch. First of all, before we get into that, there's Allison, Melanie, and Randy, and as you can see, I have this shirt, and it's an awesome shirt. It's got this here logo on it. I also have a mug with the golf ball and the Sharks happen on it. And the coolest thing is if you see the back of the shirt, because the shark is in his living room and he's enjoying his TV show, and he's got the human jaws up on his wall. I just think that is the coolest thing I've seen. So, an explanation on that. This stuff was sent to me in May. Way back in May, Randy, Allison, and Melanie sent me this excellent shirt, the excellent mug, a very nice letter to go along with it. And, I almost forget how long this stuff going on with YouTube and my channel has been going on. But a year ago at this time, back when I noticed that they had slowed my channel, I had done a couple things. I went ahead and spent about, $4,500 going ahead and making my Sharks Happen and Attempt to Predate both trademarks. It's a lot of money to do that. I did both of those about a year, back in September, October of 2022, getting ready for this last year when I thought I was going to do better. I also took, at the same time, and made my company, which was a sole proprietorship, an LLC S Corp. And what that does is saves you taxes when you start making over $80,000 a year. What it actually does is cost you thousands of dollars when you make half what you did the year before, like happened to me. So what I did that's why I've been sporadic. I put out those 5 or 6 videos there when I could, and then I've disappeared for a few more days. I was getting all my end of the year stuff that I would normally let it wait a month or so. I'm trying to shut down my business as soon as I can, because I'm spending $300 to $400 a month I shouldn't need to if I'm not a business. If I didn't go through and do the stuff I did to prepare for the channel growing, when they ended up slowing it, it really did a double kill. Now, I also had my merch on Etsy. I had my Etsy store. The way the Etsy store works is somebody makes an order, I pay for the order, they reimburse me. I can't do that right now, so I had to shut that down because I can't cover the orders that come in. My store, I had to shut that down because even though the website is only $500 and something a year, screw that. Even though it's $500 a year for the website, after June, I think it is, July through the end of the year, I only sold about 10 things. I only had 10 orders. I used to have daily orders. In the last 4 months of the year, including Christmas, I ended up getting 3 sales the last 4 months in my store. That I did 20 videos in November and December and put my website and all those. I did 3 sales. And that's because they're recommending my videos only on my own channel. So unless you're watching me from my channel, you're not going to see recommendations from my other videos. It's just what they've been doing. So both of my stores are shut down. I have thousands of shirts and pens and hundreds of hats, but I can't. I have to look for another way to do it to where it's not going to cost me more than I'm making on them to sell them. As soon as I get that worked out, I'll have that done. And as soon as I get the channel fixed, I'll get my Etsy store back up and running. As far as getting the channel fixed, I'm still working on that. Looking through my terms of service, I only have until the end of March to take legal action. But I finally, after talking to a bunch of different lawyers, and the police, a couple police station in Troy and the state police about this stuff, I finally got to a class action firm that's actually contacted me back after I contacted them. So they're supposed to get a hold of me this week and collect a little bit more information. And hopefully I'm going to start this class action lawsuit against YouTube and get my channel fixed, and then everything will be fixed. The channel ain't going nowhere. I shut down my business, but that's got nothing to do with the channel itself. Nothing changes with the channel. So nobody disappear. Keep checking for videos because they're still going to be here. It's just going to be a while before you're going to get some merchandise. I just wanted to tell you guys all, what was going on. Yeah, the channel is doing worse than ever. I'm still making a third of what I did when I had 6 videos. So the more videos I do, the least they send them out. So that's the show for today. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you check. I'm going to have a really good multiple shark attack. I saw somebody talk about that I have the multiple victim attacks. Well, now we're going to go through some multiple shark attacks. We're going to start with one of my favorite stories, because as soon as I heard about it a couple years back, I was like, I've never heard of that. And it's an interesting story to go through it, so you're going to get that video in the next day or 2, and then we'll get another regular attack show in the next 3 or 4 days. Till then, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.